Silver Solutions Radio is brought to you by Right at Home. Today's guest is Susan Blosser, registered nurse and leader of the Parkinson Support Group at Presence St. Joseph's Hospital.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Silver Solutions Radio, your show for living long and aging strong.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeanette Palmer, your host today, and I'm pleased to be joined by our co-hosts Jim and Kathy.
It's me.
Yeah, Jim Wojciechowski and Kathy Wetters, the co-owners of Right at Home. We're excited to have as our guest today Susan Blosser, an RN at Presence St. Joe's in Elgin. She hosts the Parkinson Support Group, and as you know, we've been talking about Parkinson's this whole month. We're leading up to moving day this Saturday, and later in the show we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the purpose is to provide resources for people and the families supporting people with Parkinson's. To give you the resources that you need to be able to deal with the disease and have the best life possible.
Absolutely. Welcome, Sue. I'd just like to remind everybody to call in if you have any questions or want to participate in the show. Susan's going to have a lot of information today, and please call in with any questions at 847-931-1410.
You had that number memorized, Jim, I noticed.
I was working on it this morning.
That's excellent. Our show is brought to you today by Right at Home. The 4 pillars of the right care from Right at Home mean that your loved one will be cared for people doing the right thing, the right way, for the right reason. Call us today, 877-ELDER-99, 877-353-3799.
Great, thanks. So thanks for being here today, Sue.
Thanks for having me.
Now, we talked to you earlier today, and we're actually lucky because this afternoon is a Parkinson Support Group at Presence St. Joe's in Elgin, so anybody listening could potentially go.
Yep, it starts at 4 o'clock.
All right, excellent. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into becoming the Parkinson Support Group, the Parkinson's expert?
I used to work at another hospital.
Okay.
And they sent out a request looking for a volunteer, and I figured nobody would volunteer. And I was a nurse, and I wanted to volunteer. I wanted to learn more. I was a new nurse, and I really wanted to learn as much as I could. And Parkinson's was a great way to start. So I ran the Parkinson Support Group out of Barrington for 5 years. And about 7 years ago, I made the move to St. Joe's. And it took about 2 or 3 years before I got permission to start it with a neurologist, a rehab doctor, and another nurse at St. Joe's. So we started it about 2 years ago.
Wow. And so how has the participation been? Do you feel that there's really a need in the community for that support group?
Oh,
I know that you're really dedicated to it, and it's continued for 2 years, but how's the demand, so to speak?
There's a huge need, and the biggest problem is people don't know about it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Or people, when they get any kind of chronic illness, not just Parkinson's, they need a support group. They need a support group that they can go to. They need a support group that they can learn from. They need a support group they can share with. Mm-hmm. And there's a need for any chronic illness to be supported by a support group.
No doubt. And they're also helpful. As we were having coffee this morning or talking in the lobby, I learned so much more about Parkinson's. And just in this little time that it's just so fascinating. And I have a question for you. Is Parkinson's being diagnosed more, or Parkinson's symptoms?
I don't know if it's being diagnosed more. I think it's getting more attention with Michael J. Fox and Muhammad Ali and Janet Reno. There's a lot of famous people that have Parkinson's, and it's getting more attention. But there's so many different, and there's now a DAT scan, where a DAT scan was just discovered about 2 years ago that it can diagnose Parkinson's. But a lot of people still continue to not be diagnosed because they don't have tremors. And as I mentioned to you guys, only 70% of patients have tremors.
Wow.
Okay. And so it means 30% of people who have Parkinson's don't have tremors, which is the telltale sign that people think about. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there are many other symptoms that you can have when you have Parkinson's.
And we were talking about that DAT scan. Tell us more about that.
So the DAT scan is similar to an MRI. That's the easiest way to think about it. So it looks at the brain activity. And so it can look, Parkinson's is in the basal ganglia. So if I'm getting too technical, just pull me back. but it'll go
That's
in.
part of the brain.
It's part of the brain. So it looks at the brain, looks at the activity, and that's how they can now look at diagnosing it.
How about that?
Yeah, so that's, again, it used to be by symptoms. So if you had tremors, if you didn't swing your arms when you moved, if your gait, if you walked differently, they would say, we'll try all this stuff. We'll try this medicine. If this medicine works, then you have Parkinson's. But now there's a test that they can do.
Without administering the medicine.
So, can that help differentiate Parkinson's from other, like Parkinson-like maladies?
It could, but it could also just narrow down to being Parkinson's and leaving it at that, which is a similar course of medication. But I think what's really important is for family and caregivers to recognize that some things might be Parkinson's, but some things might not. If you have a backache, it could be a real backache. If you have where I'm saying you're not talking loud enough, you have a hearing problem, that it might not be me. I might not be talking loud enough. As Parkinson's disease, the person in their head sounds like to them that they're talking really loud. So their voice is getting really quiet.
Wow.
So it's really important if you have a spouse that keeps saying you're deaf, you need to, it's your problem. It might not be. It might be the Parkinson's.
I see. Now, do you have any inkling of are there a percent of folks that have Parkinson's that maybe also have Lewy body dementia, or is it just happenstance that some folks may have both?
It's happenstance that they may have both.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and you guys, the disease is so varied. That's why it used to be harder. It used to take 3 years, 5 years, 10 years to get diagnosed, because it mimics other things. So if a person has Lewy body disease, dementia, they could have Parkinson's, but they could have Lewy body dementia. And so to be and that might be their only symptom is dementia,
Gotcha.
then they're going to be diagnosed with dementia and probably never in their lifetime diagnosed with Parkinson's.
So it's just coincidental if someone happens to have both.
Right.
Gotcha.
And you can have Parkinson's because of a genetic component, the PK2 gene, or you can have Parkinson's because of an exposure, like we were talking earlier, with fertilizers. There's a fertilizer that was used that has shown to cause Parkinson's. So,
isn't that interesting?
And we know too, like for Agent Orange, that's directly related to Parkinson's.
So again, so when they say there's not a genetic component, there is a gene, but there's also a possibility you can have it without having a genetic component.
Interesting.
And we were talking about the clinical trials, and that gene marker. That one of the things that I wasn't aware of until you explained it, Sue, was that you don't have to have the disease to participate in a trial. So can you explain that to the audience?
Absolutely. Michael J. Fox, I'm going to put a plug in for them. Michael J. Fox Trial Finder. A lot of people go to the Trial Finder and list different trials that they want to do for Parkinson's. In order to do these trials, they have to have normal controls. Mm-hmm. So I do not have Parkinson's, but I am signed up in a trial. Mm-hmm. So they take blood work. It might be exercise. Exercise is the most important medication for Parkinson's.
Jim.
Did everybody hear
I should take that to heart.
Yeah. So they do trials for, how does Parkinson's or exercise affect Parkinson's? How does exercise affect a control? It might be how does blood work for a control compared to blood work for Parkinson's. That's how they find out there's a PK2 gene, because a control doesn't have it, but a Parkinson's person might. So I encourage everybody sign up for it. It's not hard. It might be just donating blood and you're participating.
So if you're a nurse and you don't mind like that donating of blood, but I really don't like donating blood.
Then you can do the trial where you're doing the exercise.
There's a lot of people out there that want to help people.
Right.
Okay. They just don't know how. This would be a perfect opportunity for an audience member, one of our audience members that's been looking to do something for other people. Join a study like this.
Sign up for it. They'll tell you, they'll send it back whether you qualify or what you would qualify for. And it might be a study where you go on the computer and you do a brain teaser.
Oh, okay.
And so they have a control. No blood's given.
Yeah.
And you go in, you do this brain teaser, and they see if you're improving.
Uh-huh.
So again, it's
Oh, okay.
really
So-
kind of cool stuff.
Yeah.
So, so this could actually be fun too.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, is that right?
Absolutely.
How do you sign up for one of these studies?
Just Google Michael J. Fox.
Foundation,
In
yeah.
a foundation, it'll come up with a trial finder.
Okay,
So it's really easy.
excellent.
So children or grandchildren of someone that's been diagnosed with Parkinson's, they could have some genetic testing to see if they have this marker.
Yes, it's if it's a genetic reason they have it. So if you look at a
Genetic reason.
farmer, like we've got one member in our group, he has it, his brother has it, and his father has it, but he's a farmer, and they use the fertilizer that causes it.
Yeah.
So he may have the gene, he may not. So the other really cool thing about the trials is there was a story about this one gal who signed up as a control. They ran all the blood work, found out she actually had Parkinson's. But it was in such an early stage that she had no symptoms. She had no, inkling that she actually had it.
Is there a benefit to find out a diagnosis early for Parkinson's?
I think there's a benefit to find out any kind of disease. If you knew you were going to have diabetes, would you start studying up about the disease? Would you maintain your weight? Would you maintain your exercise level?
That's true.
I'd stop going to Culver's.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, it's really, even though that's staring you right in the face, like, when I look in the mirror every day, it's staring me right there, and so it's hard just to take action sometimes, you need a push sometimes.
Right. But like I have one member that was in my previous support group. By the time she got diagnosed, she was bedridden. And exercise is the best medicine for Parkinson's. She got up, started working out. She works out 4 hours a day and is leading as normal of a life. And she had a very progressive Parkinson's. She's leading a normal life because of exercise. Had she known, she probably never would have gotten to the point of being bedridden.
Right.
She may have come up with a plan before that.
Goodness.
And it's so important. We've had, being Parkinson's Month, our last two guests, Bob Beatty,
And Paula Wiener.
and they had talked about the importance of exercise. Now, not only for Parkinson's, but just for a healthy body and a healthy mind, the benefits are just exponential, and especially for Parkinson's.
Exactly. Parkinson's is definitely affected more, I wouldn't say more than any other disease, because diabetes, again, you can get on, definitely take control of your life. Cardiac, you can, very much help your life if you're overweight to lose weight so you're not putting such a tax on your heart. So exercise is important, but for Parkinson's, it might make the difference of being able to move and not being able to move.
Now, Susan, we were talking this morning, and you did such a fabulous job describing Parkinson's to me visually. Now, by the way, we are visual today, so you can go to eldercarechannel.com.
NapervilleSeniorCare.com.
NapervilleSeniorCare.com, and watch us on the radio also after the show. But you did a great job visually describing what Parkinson's is. So when you hear Parkinson's, what is it?
Well, a lot of people think of Parkinson's, was discovered by James Parkinson, is nothing more than tremors, but it is so much more than that. It's the mentality that comes with it is quite interesting. It was such an eye-opener for me to run my Parkinson's support group, which is why I love this group. What makes people self-conscious, hands down, was not walking with an arm swing. Before I started working with Parkinson's, I didn't realize that there really was a lack of arm swing. But there are so many other symptoms, like my favorite word, micrographia, which is small handwriting. Your handwriting gets smaller, which a lot of times people don't notice because we're using computers. And we say we're not writing letters anymore. So you might find that a person with Parkinson's can't fill out their checks anymore.
Or as you're cashing their checks, their handwriting is smaller.
So small that it gets microscopic. It is very, very small to the point where you can't tell what it is.
Yeah.
But they've got symptoms of constipation. That's the number one symptom of Parkinson's. They have swallowing issues. and each thing can be addressed individually. There's a gait issue. There's, of course, freezing. Everybody thinks of, Parkinson's, they're walking suddenly freeze. And there's things you can do about that. And I was mentioning this morning, a patient I had, she had her call light in. I walked on in, and she wasn't my patient. So she said, I've got Parkinson's, but I need to get from the chair to the bed. I said, not a big deal. And she's like, well, it is a big deal. I'm frozen. And I said, still not a big deal. I said, put your arm around me. I'm going to put my arms around you. We're going to dance. And I really just got her mind off of that I'm frozen and can't move to, holy cow, I'm dancing. So I sang, Let Me Call You Sweetheart. Only got to the, let me call you sweetheart. She was in bed. And she looks at me, she goes, how did you do that? And I said, I just took the path in your brain a different way, because that's why you're frozen. Your brain is sending you a signal saying you need to.
There's no receptor on the other side.
There's no receptor. Yeah. And so I just took it to a different route. It's kind of like you're at a crossroads. You can turn left or you can turn right. The left has got a roadblock. Mm-hmm. So I just turned you right.
Or like when you're on the cell phone and you're in a bad zone, where you don't have any reception.
Yep.
Right. And I used the example FaceTime or Skype. When you're looking at the picture and you can hear the voice and nobody's talking there.
Or you can hear the voice and the face isn't moving.
Or the face isn't moving. Right.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right.
So are there some coping strategies that they can learn?
Absolutely. Again, there's prompts. So for the handwriting, there's an exercise. You just draw circles. They get bigger and bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. Then they can make out their checks. It'll last for a couple hours. Even though it will go back, it'll still be something they can, as a coping strategy, to make out their checks. The walking with the freezing, if they're using a walker, there are ones out there that have special lights on them.
Right.
And they beat at a certain beat. There's sound. There's a metronome. Mm-hmm. You hit a certain, you get it off the bump, 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 bump. As you get it off, and it sends it down a different path. Mm-hmm. You can see them walking with headphones.
Wow.
The sounds of the songs can keep them moving. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of...
Because it's a different path that's connecting in the brain, like with the music. We know that with our experience with people with Alzheimer's. So, yeah.
Exactly. And the voice getting quieter and quieter. There's physical therapy for the voice. It's called Lee Silverman voice therapy. You get really loud. So they practice every morning. That gets their voice louder, gets those muscles being used again. Oh, okay. But a big key is to get out and use it.
And something else that you mentioned that never connected for me before was that you had maybe a patient or children of someone who said that they were having problems backing up.
Right. So a lot of patients come into the hospital newly diagnosed. I had one lady said, my mom just got diagnosed with Parkinson's. I don't think she has it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, let's look at the symptoms. Is she constipated? She goes, well, I don't know. It's my mother. Okay. Does she swing her arms? I don't know. She walks with a walker. And I said, well, does she fall back into a chair? Because a lot of Parkinson's patients can't back up. And her response was, holy cow, my father-in-law has Parkinson's, and we're always yelling at him for falling into his chair. It's because he can't back up, and that's how he just flops into his chair. Uh-huh. And then one of my canned responses, are you funny? Do you tell good jokes? And, everybody thinks they're funny. Everybody thinks they tell good. Yeah.
Sure.
And it's like, well, does she laugh? Does she laugh at your jokes? Well, no. Well, then she has Parkinson's. Because of the masked face.
Oh. Wow.
So yeah, if you see somebody that isn't laughing, is they word it, they're laughing on the inside. Right. They get the joke, they're laughing. It's just their face isn't changing.
That trouble backing up, I have seen firsthand with one of our clients that has stair lift, and I was with her one day, and she was going to get on at the top of the stairs, and while I'm positioning myself in front of the chair and swiveling it around and locking it in, boom, she kind of
flopped into the chair,
and it was traumatic to me.
Oh,
everything was good, but I could see. And then in the kitchen, we had to actually change out chairs in her kitchen because there were on casters.
Oh,
and we just had to get rid of those chairs because she was for that reason she just couldn't back up and
there's
gently get down.
And physical therapy is extremely important. They'll teach you things like you can walk to a chair and turn around and sit. versus backing up to a chair. And so it's important to take advantage of insurances. If they pay for physical therapy for a week in a month or a week in a year, do it. You know, talk to your doctor, use that benefit.
Now, do y'all talk at the support group about the popular meds they're on? Is there things they need to watch for, like that hallucinations you hear about a lot of?
Absolutely. So with Parkinson's, that's why timing is critical. This is probably the most important thing. That's why patients get frozen, is because they're taking meds on hospital time versus their own time, which they don't need to do. They need to take it on their time. And there's ways that you can address that, but getting off topic. But if the Parkinson's symptoms aren't being controlled, the medication has to be looked at. And that's why with Parkinson's, there are some that take it every 3 hours and 10 minutes, every 4 hours and 20 minutes. And if you can't get that when you're hospitalized, you talk to your doctor about taking your own medicine.
To get a note to take your own medicine at the hospital.
The doctor just has to write an order saying patient may take their own medicine.
That's not widely known, is it?
I tell all my patients that.
And so, Susan, talk to us about the support group. I don't want to run out of time today and not have you tell all of our listeners about the support group and how to participate in it, and you know who should participate. If you could talk more about that, because that's really the message we want to get out today, so that people can come to the support group and get all of this good information that you're sharing with us.
So everyone that has Parkinson's is absolutely welcome, and the caregivers, family members, you're more than welcome to come and share. And so we have it right over at St. Joe's. Go in the main entrance. We've got signs. It's in one of the conference rooms. But we always have a speaker. So this afternoon, it starts at 4 o'clock. We've got a nurse coming to talk about dietary issues. So Parkinson's patients sometimes have swallowing issues. So what do you do when somebody has a swallowing issue? Well, maybe changing chicken noodle soup to cream of chicken soup. So something might be as subtle as that, or
you were talking about that Parkinson's paste or something.
If you have constipation, if you Google it, you can find Parkinson's paste. It's a way to address constipation. It's a recipe that you can make at home. That again, you don't have to go buy it. I don't know the whole recipe. It's something like dates and prunes and brown sugar and senna tea. You boil it. It makes it into a jelly. So I've had some members that put on their toast. It's just like a jelly. Or another guy goes, every morning I go in the freezer. He keeps it in the freezer. Take a spoon of it, and I'm good.
It actually sounds very good.
Yeah, it tastes like jelly. So, and that's today's speaker is on dietary modifications to help. Or if you're at a restaurant and you're self-conscious because you have tremors, what you can order or what you can use. There's weighted spoons that can. You want to eat soup at a restaurant and you can't get to your mouth because you're shaking. Use a weighted spoon. You don't want anybody to see, so you might get a sandwich, or you might get something a little bit heavier. So
I'm kind of curious, if you don't mind me asking.
Sure.
It seems like a lot of the symptoms and that would identify Parkinson's seem to have some kind of a muscle reactor, whether it be muscles in your throat swallowing, muscles in your legs, your exercise helps you out, muscles in your intestines, that the constipation.
Movement. Absolutely.
It's all about movement.
Which is why if you are diagnosed with Parkinson's, that you should find a movement disorder specialist versus just a neurologist or versus a general practitioner.
I think that came up last week too when you were speaking with somebody. And also the booklet that people can have. There's that package that somebody had offered last week. I'm sure if they contact one of you guys, they can find out how to get one of those packets. So if they are hospitalized.
If you go on to APDA website, the American Parkinson's Disease Association, and there's a couple different ones. There are a ton of free things. One of them is a hospital pack, and so you put a day or two dose of medications. Because if you go into the ER, typical example, I work all the units. I do ER, I do critical care. But if you come into the ER, it'll probably be 3 hours before you get upstairs. So if your medication is due an hour after you get there, I can't give it to you. You have to have your own Parkinson's medicine. If you get upstairs, they have to do the intake. They have to contact your physician and get your meds continued, put it into the computer, send it to pharmacy. Pharmacy has to profile. All that takes time. You can't miss your Parkinson's meds. You've got your watch going off. You need to take your medicine. So that little packet, it comes with, you put your medicine in there for a day, and then you have it if you ever go to the emergency room. But also has a list of medications that Parkinson's patients should never be on because they interact with either the medication or the disease.
Yeah, and that's something that we didn't touch on at all.
No,
we haven't
did not, no.
through our series
What are
here.
some of those? Do you recall?
Anti-nausea. Zofran you can have, the rest you probably shouldn't have. Any kind of a muscle relaxer you probably shouldn't have. So again, look, it's free. Get the list. It's got a bracelet. It's got, I've got Parkinson's. You can buy a very decorative one. This is, I've got Parkinson's. So there's lots of tools out there, but on the websites at APDA, they have a ton of free stuff.
Right.
What do you do? They have got a respite program. So if I want to go to a wedding in the East Coast and I've got a spouse that has Parkinson's, they give me $500 to accommodate him so I can go.
How neat.
Yeah, so it's really nice. Or everybody needs some time away. So maybe there's a daycare program for adults in Elgin. Well, they also take people for a couple nights, so I could use that $500 toward that. So it's a great resource, and the big thing is people aren't alone.
Right.
Absolutely.
Anybody with a chronic illness feels they're the only ones.
Now, at the support group, are the only people that should come are people that's been diagnosed with Parkinson's?
Or their family members or caregivers.
And that's why I asked the question, because it's so important. When you were telling the story about the gentleman who was backing up and the family was yelling at him, okay, if that family came to the support group, they would have learned this and been a lot more patient, because then they are educated on what's going on with the
well, and the other thing too is there's a
patient.
lot of frustration, and so by going to a support group, then you're able to get the support that you need, obviously, but also have some tools to counteract that frustration.
But yeah, because like if my husband kept talking to me and I kept saying, huh? And he turned around and said, it's your hearing. And I went and got my hearing checked and it was fine. And then I found out it's because your voice is getting softer because you have Parkinson's. That gives me the tools for my own sanity.
Right,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I'm not going deaf. You're talking softer. You don't think you're talking softer because you hear it in your head plenty loud. So that's why it's important. There's so much information out there, but this gives you a forum to talk about it.
Well, and so again, it's a movement disorder. So I want to tell you about Moving Day this weekend, Saturday, September 24th at the Lincoln Park Southfields, because every 9 minutes somebody's diagnosed with Parkinson's. So please join us down there for Moving Day, September 24th. So time goes so fast on this show. We have you shared such valuable information. We could talk another hour. I'm sure you have lots of stories to share. We'll have to have you back again.
Excellent.
And so if someone wanted to reach you, like, would they just call President St. Joe's? And
They can, or if you wanted to email me,
okay,
my email at Presence is Susan, SUSAN.Blosser, BLOSSER @presentsouth.org.
great.
So they can email me as well.
Very good. You'll be able to go to right at home sites and get that information too. We'll put that out.
Right.
So,
Thank you so much, Susan.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Susan, thanks for being here today. Awesome.
Aging isn't easy, not for the person who is getting older or their family. New challenges arise daily and can overwhelm everyone involved. Don't wait for a crisis before you investigate in-home care. Call today to schedule a free in-home assessment and let us give you the help that you need.
And don't forget, Kath, where do you find us?
Yes, Jim, thanks. 877-ELDER-99. That's 877-343-3799.
And on
The
Website?
Oh, yes, on the Elder Care Channel. That's NapervilleSeniorCare.com.
see you next week on Silver Solutions Radio.